Jackson had always been an ordinary guy. He wasn't rich, nor was he famous, and his life followed a very simple routine. Every day, he woke up at 7 a.m., worked his 9-to-5 job as an accountant, and spent his evenings either watching TV or reading books. It wasn't an exciting life, but it was comfortable. The most exciting thing that ever happened to him was finding a $20 bill on the sidewalk. But even that didn't come close to what was about to change his life. It all started with a strange email one evening while Jackson was sitting in his living room, sipping a cup of coffee. The subject line read, "Congratulations, you've been selected for the space lottery." Jackson, who had never entered any such lottery, stared at the message in disbelief. Was it spam? Probably, he thought, dismissing it almost immediately. But something about the idea intrigued him. A space lottery. It didn't hurt to take a look, right? He opened the email, and the contents seemed official. It was a bright, colorful design with futuristic fonts, announcing that Jackson had been selected as one of the winners of the space lottery. The email explained that the prize was a rare, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win something truly special. There was no further explanation, only a link to confirm his acceptance. Jackson didn't know what to think. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe someone was playing a prank on him. But curiosity got the best of him. He clicked the link and entered his details, thinking it would end there. After all, who would expect to win anything from a random lottery, especially one so bizarre? The next day, Jackson woke up to a strange notification on his phone, a reminder from the space lottery authorities. Your prize awaits. Please be ready at 2 p.m. today. It was signed off by an official-sounding alien organization, and the email had a logo that Jackson had never seen before. He could only laugh at the absurdity of it all. At 2 p.m., something unexpected happened. A bright flash of light appeared outside his window. Jackson rushed to the glass, his heart racing. A sleek spacecraft, shining like a star, hovered just above the ground. He blinked and rubbed his eyes, thinking this was some kind of special effects show. But no, it was real. He wasn't dreaming. The ship was there, and it was waiting for him. Before he could even make sense of what was happening, a tall figure appeared near the craft. It was an alien, but unlike anything he'd seen before. She was tall, with smooth, almost glowing skin, and her features were delicate and otherworldly. She had pale blue skin, her ears were small and pointed like an elf's, and her eyes were deep, almost otherworldly. She was stunning, and for a moment, Jackson forgot how to breathe. The alien woman smiled at him, and in a soft, melodic voice, she spoke. Jackson, congratulations. You have won the prize. I am Silara, your companion from a distant galaxy. Jackson froze. He couldn't believe what was happening. Was this really happening? He had won something, and it involved an alien. His mind raced as the thoughts bounced in his head. Could this be a prank? Was he on a reality TV show? Maybe hidden cameras were watching him right now. But the alien woman didn't disappear. She stood there, her gaze steady and calm. There was no camera crew, no crew at all. Just her, and the spaceship behind her. Your prize, Silara continued, is a rare gift from my people. You, Jackson, have won an alien companion for life. I am here to be your wife. Jackson's jaw dropped. Wife. He felt like he was going crazy. Was this some sort of joke? He'd always imagined aliens, of course, but he had never thought that one would suddenly show up at his doorstep, offering herself as his wife. He looked at her again, this time trying to make sense of it all. Silara's beauty was almost otherworldly, yet she seemed sincere, calm, and real. I didn't enter for this, Jackson stammered. What? What do you mean by wife? Silara smiled again, her calm demeanor making Jackson feel a little more at ease. In my culture, this prize is an honor. It is a rare chance for a human to bond with someone from my world. My people have chosen you as a worthy companion. If you accept, we will share a life together. Jackson's head was spinning. He wasn't sure if he should laugh, scream, or run away. How could this be happening? Was this real? The alien woman seemed to sense his confusion. "I understand that this may be overwhelming," she said gently. "But I assure you, I will not force you into anything. The choice is yours. However, if you refuse, there may be consequences for both of us. You see, this isn't just about you and me. This prize affects more than just us." Jackson felt a wave of responsibility wash over him. He had no idea what he was supposed to do or how to react. A part of him wanted to walk away, but another part of him, an adventurous, curious part, wanted to know what this all meant. Was this the chance of a lifetime? Or was it a big mistake? For the first time in his life, Jackson found himself standing at a crossroads. His mundane existence had just been turned upside down. And now, standing before him was an alien woman, offering him a life and a future beyond anything he could have imagined. As he looked into her alien eyes, Jackson realized that his life would never be the same again. The world he knew had just expanded beyond his wildest dreams, and it was only just beginning. Jackson stood frozen, his eyes wide, staring at the alien woman named Solara who had appeared in front of him. He still couldn't believe it. Just a few minutes ago, he was a regular guy living in a small apartment, working an average job, and now he was facing an alien offering herself as his wife. His mind was racing, and he didn't know what to do. Solara, on the other hand, was calm and composed. She seemed to understand the confusion on Jackson's face. She waited patiently, standing beside the gleaming spaceship that had landed just outside his home. The ship was unlike anything Jackson had ever seen. It was sleek, shining in the afternoon sunlight, and made no sound at all as it hovered just above the ground. It looked like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but this was real. And it was happening to him. "I know this must be overwhelming." Solara spoke again, her voice soft and melodic. "But everything will be explained. All you need to do is come with me." Jackson could feel the weight of her words. She wasn't asking, but at the same time, she wasn't forcing him. There was something gentle in her tone, something that made him feel both nervous and intrigued. Was this really happening? How could this be real? He shook his head, trying to gather his thoughts. "I didn't sign up for this. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a space lottery," Jackson replied, his voice shaky. Solara's eyes softened. "A lottery is more than a simple game. It's a way to bring together different species, and your name was selected. This is not a mistake, Jackson." "But why me?" Jackson asked. "I'm just a regular guy. There must be someone more qualified for this than me. I don't even know what it means to have an alien wife." "You are more than what you think," Solara said with a smile. "You were chosen because of your unique qualities, your heart, and your potential. You may not understand it now, but in time, you will. My people believe that humans are capable of great things, and that includes love. This is our gift to you." Jackson's heart pounded in his chest. He didn't know what to make of her words. Was this some kind of test? Was he being tricked? He had heard stories of aliens visiting Earth in the past, but never had he imagined that one of them would show up at his doorstep, offering him a prize that sounded like a fairy tale. A beautiful alien wife. It sounded crazy. He looked at Solara once more. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her pale blue skin glowed softly in the light. Her features were delicate, and her eyes were deep and captivating. There was a quiet strength in her gaze that made Jackson feel both small and oddly important. At the same time, it was as though she could see straight through him, as if she understood him better than he understood himself. I don't know," Jackson said, his voice quieter this time. "This is all too much. I'm just not sure what to do." Solara nodded as if she expected his hesitation. "I understand your uncertainty. You may feel like this is all happening too fast. But sometimes life throws things at us that we don't expect. This is one of those times. But you do have a choice. If you want, you can return to your old life, and I will leave. but I will stay if you choose to accept me as your companion." Jackson's mind was in a whirlwind. The idea of returning to his old life, the life he knew, was tempting. It was safe. Nothing extraordinary ever happened to him, and the thought of stepping into something unknown, especially with an alien woman, was terrifying. But then again, he couldn't ignore the excitement that bubbled inside him. The possibility that he was about to be part of something bigger than anything he had ever known was too enticing to ignore. He looked up at Solara again. She was still standing there, waiting patiently, as though she already knew the decision he was about to make. Jackson realized that, for the first time in his life, he was at the edge of an adventure that could change everything. His heart raced as he spoke, almost to himself more than anyone else. "What if I choose to stay?" he asked, his voice filled with uncertainty but also curiosity. Solara's eyes sparkled with warmth, and a soft smile spread across her face. "Then you will not regret it. I will show you a life you never imagined, and you will discover things about yourself that you never knew existed." For a moment, Jackson just stood there, looking at the spaceship, looking at Solara, and wondering what his future could hold. He had always dreamed of something more than the boring routine of his daily life. Maybe this was the opportunity he had been waiting for. The chance to explore the unknown, to experience something completely new and extraordinary. "All right," Jackson said, his voice steadying. "I'll go with you." Solara's smile grew wider, and she stepped forward, offering her hand to him. "You won't regret this, Jackson. Together, we'll discover a world beyond your wildest dreams." Jackson hesitated for a moment, but then he took her hand. The moment their hands met, he felt a strange warmth, a spark of something he couldn't explain. It was as though this was meant to be, as though his decision had already been made long before he even knew what was happening. As Solara led him towards the spaceship, Jackson couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and fear. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. His life was never going to be the same again. The doors of the spaceship opened with a soft hum, and Jackson stepped inside, ready to embark on a journey that would change his life forever. The world he knew was now far behind him, and a new adventure was waiting for him in the stars. The inside of the spaceship was nothing like Jackson had imagined. It wasn't cold or mechanical, as he expected from the stories he had read. Instead, it was surprisingly warm, with soft lighting that gave the space a calming, almost cozy feeling. The walls were made of a smooth material that shimmered with subtle colors, shifting like the surface of a calm ocean. As he stepped further inside, Jackson couldn't help but feel the weight of the decision he had just made. He had left behind everything, his apartment, his job, and even his family, for an alien world that he knew almost nothing about. It felt strange, like a dream he wasn't sure he could wake up from. Solara guided him through the ship's corridors with ease. She seemed at home here, moving gracefully, her steps light and confident. Every now and then, she glanced back at him, offering a reassuring smile. Her presence, though so different, was calming. There was something about her, something that made Jackson feel like maybe this wasn't such a bad decision after all. "Don't worry," Solara said, her voice soft, almost like a gentle melody. "You'll get used to everything. The ship is designed to be comfortable for humans. We've studied your species, Jackson. We understand your needs and preferences better than you think." Jackson nodded, but a part of him was still unsure. "How do you know what I need?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "How do you know I'll be okay with all this?" Solara stopped walking for a moment and turned to face him. Her expression softened, and for the first time, Jackson saw a hint of vulnerability in her eyes. "We've watched Earth for a long time," she said quietly. "We've seen your struggles, your triumphs, your hearts. I know you're capable of more than you realize, and that's why you were chosen." Jackson felt a strange warmth wash over him. It was hard to explain, but hearing her say that, hearing her believe in him, made him feel like maybe this wasn't a mistake. Maybe this was meant to be. They continued walking, and soon they arrived at what looked like a large, circular room. The walls were made of a transparent material, giving Jackson a perfect view of the stars outside. It was breathtaking. The vastness of space stretched out before him, the stars twinkling like diamonds in the sky. For a moment, Jackson forgot about everything else and just stared in awe. "This is the observation deck," Solara said, watching Jackson's reaction. "It's one of the most peaceful places on the ship. We can spend time here whenever you need to think." Jackson could only nod, still in awe. He had never seen anything like this in his life. The stars, the endless space, and the quiet beauty of it all. He felt small, but in a good way. It was humbling. It was also a reminder of how much he didn't know, how much he had yet to learn. "I never imagined this would be my life," Jackson said softly, more to himself than to Solara. Solara smiled. "Life has a way of surprising us, but sometimes it's those surprises that lead us to where we're meant to be." As Jackson stood by the window, trying to wrap his mind around everything, he realized how much he had taken for granted back on Earth. The simple things, like the sound of traffic outside his window, the hum of the refrigerator, or the comfort of his bed, suddenly seemed distant, like they belonged to a life he had left behind. "I don't know what's next," Jackson said, turning to face Solara, "but I'm trying to understand. I just need time." Solara nodded, her eyes understanding. "Take all the time you need, Jackson. I'm not going anywhere." The way she said that made Jackson feel better, as if he didn't have to rush into anything. He could take things slow. He could figure this out. And maybe, just maybe, he would find something here that was worth the risk. For the rest of the day, Solara showed him around the ship, explaining how everything worked. There was a room for rest, a space for eating, and even a small library filled with books and data about the galaxy. Jackson was amazed by how advanced everything was. The technology was unlike anything he had seen before, yet it was simple and easy to use. As the hours passed, Jackson began to feel more at ease. It wasn't as scary as he had first thought. It was strange, yes, but it was also exciting. Every new thing he learned about the ship, about Solara, about the universe, made him feel like he was stepping into a world beyond his imagination. That evening, as they sat in the dining room, Jackson felt a sense of calm wash over him. The food, though unfamiliar, was delicious. It was unlike anything he had tasted on Earth, but it was satisfying. They ate in comfortable silence, and for the first time since he had stepped on the ship, Jackson felt like he was starting to find his place. Solara glanced at him as they finished their meal. "How are you feeling?" she asked, her tone gentle. Jackson paused, considering the question. He wasn't sure if he had the answer yet, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't as afraid as he had been before. "I'm not sure," he said honestly, "but I think I'm starting to understand. I might not have all the answers yet, but I want to try. I want to see where this goes." Solara smiled, her eyes warm with approval. "That's all I ask, Jackson. Just give it a chance." And with that, Jackson felt something shift inside him. Maybe this wasn't such a crazy idea after all. Maybe he could make this work. Maybe he could build a future with Solara and discover a world that was beyond anything he had ever dreamed of. As the night fell and the stars outside the window grew brighter, Jackson found himself looking forward to the next day, to the next step in this strange, new life. The days on the spaceship began to blur together. Jackson was no longer a stranger to Solara's world. The ship, which had once seemed so alien and intimidating, now felt more like home. He had learned the layout, the routines, and the many comforts that the ship offered. There was still so much about the galaxy and its technology that he didn't understand, but he was beginning to feel less like an outsider. Solara was patient with him. Every day, she answered his questions about her culture, her people, and the vast universe they came from. Sometimes, she would show him books and data files about the different planets, stars, and civilizations. Other times, they would simply talk about life, about Earth, about the things that made them both human, even though Solara wasn't from Earth. Jackson began to notice the small things that made their bond grow. The way Solara laughed at his jokes, even when they were a little silly. The way she would look at him with a softness in her eyes when she was teaching him something new. There was a gentleness about her that made him feel understood, even in moments when he was uncertain. As their conversations deepened, Jackson realized that they shared more in common than he had first thought. Both of them had been raised with a sense of duty to their families, to their people, and to their homes. Both of them had experienced loss in different ways. Solara had lost her family when her homeworld was devastated by a catastrophic event, and Jackson had lost his father to an illness that had taken years from him. They understood what it meant to miss someone, to carry the weight of the past. One evening, after a long day of talking and exploring the ship, they sat together in the observation deck, watching the stars. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was peaceful, comfortable. "Do you miss Earth?" Solara asked softly, breaking the silence. Jackson thought for a moment before replying. "Sometimes, I miss the little things, the smell of rain, the feel of the wind on my face, the sound of the city at night. But I also feel like I've stepped into something bigger than I could have ever imagined." Solara nodded, her gaze focused on the stars outside. "I know what you mean. My home is far from here, and I miss it sometimes too. But every place I've been, every new experience I've had, has shown me something I didn't know before. I think we are both on the edge of something new, something we're meant to discover together." Her words struck a chord with Jackson. It was true. He hadn't expected any of this. Being on a spaceship, talking to an alien, or even forming a connection with someone from another world. But somehow, it didn't feel as strange anymore. It felt right. Like he was meant to be here, with her. Their connection grew stronger over time. Jackson began to feel more comfortable in Solara's presence. He had never imagined that a relationship with an alien would be anything like this. He expected something more distant, more complicated. But Solara's warmth, her understanding, made it easy for him to open up. It was like they were finding their own way to communicate, despite the vast differences in their worlds. But as much as things were progressing, there was something beneath the surface that Jackson couldn't ignore. Solara had warned him before that their relationship might not be accepted by everyone, especially those from her world. As much as she believed in their bond, there were still others who saw their union as unusual, even dangerous. One day, as Jackson was wandering through the corridors of the ship, he was approached by an unfamiliar face, a tall, imposing figure with dark, intense eyes. Jackson had never seen him before, but the man wore the insignia of Solara's people, a symbol Jackson had come to recognize. "Human," the man said, his voice stern. "You must understand that not all of us agree with the decision to send Solara to you. There are those who believe it is a mistake." Jackson felt a knot form in his stomach. He hadn't expected to be confronted like this. "I'm not trying to cause any trouble," he said, trying to stay calm. "I didn't ask for this. I'm just trying to understand everything." The man didn't soften. "Understand this, human. Solara is a symbol of our people, and your relationship with her is not without consequences. If you cannot prove that you are worthy of her, if you cannot show that you are capable of something more than just existing, there will be those who will not tolerate it." Jackson's heart pounded in his chest. He had no idea what the man meant by "prove your worth," but it didn't sound good. He wasn't sure what to say, but he couldn't back down now. Not after everything. "I'll do whatever it takes," Jackson said firmly. "I don't know what I'm supposed to prove, but I'm willing to try. I'll show you that I'm worthy of her, worthy of this chance." The man studied him for a moment before nodding once. "We shall see." As the man turned and walked away, Jackson felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him. What was he getting into? Was he truly ready for the challenges that lay ahead? He didn't know, but one thing was certain. He couldn't let Solara down. Not now. Not after everything they had shared. Later that night, as Jackson and Solara sat together, Jackson couldn't shake the feeling of unease. He didn't want to worry her, but he knew he had to say something. Solara, today, I was confronted by someone. A member of your people, Jackson began. Solara's expression turned serious, her eyes narrowing slightly. What did he say to you? Jackson hesitated for a moment before answering. He warned me. Told me that I have to prove myself, that there are those who don't approve of our relationship. Solara's eyes softened. She reached out, placing a hand on his. I knew this would happen. But Jackson, don't let them make you doubt yourself. Our bond is real. I know it, and you should too. Whatever challenges we face, we will face them together. Jackson felt a weight lift off his shoulders as he looked into her eyes. She was right. They were in this together, and no matter what happened, they would figure it out, one step at a time. The days that followed Jackson's encounter with the mysterious alien continued to be filled with a mix of wonder and uncertainty. Solara was always there, offering comfort and reassurance, but Jackson couldn't help but feel the weight of what had been said to him. The warning, the challenge to prove his worth, echoed in his mind every time he looked at her. What did it mean to prove himself? What could he possibly do to show that he was worthy of her trust, her affection, and the future they were building together? One evening, as the stars shone brightly outside the observation deck, Solara sat beside Jackson, her gaze fixed on the endless expanse of space. She had noticed the change in him, the way he seemed distant, thoughtful. He had been quieter than usual, and she could feel the tension in the air. Jackson, she said softly, turning toward him. You've been different lately. What's troubling you? Jackson hesitated. He hadn't wanted to burden her with his doubts, but he knew he couldn't keep them inside forever. It's that meeting I had, he began. The one with the alien. He said I need to prove myself. That there are people who don't think I'm worthy of you. I don't know what to do, Solara. I don't even know how I can prove that I'm worthy of this life, worthy of you. Solara's expression softened. She placed her hand gently on his, squeezing it with a sense of determination. Jackson, you've already proven more than you realize. But I understand why you feel this way. The expectations of my people can be overwhelming. There's always pressure to be something more, to be someone worthy of their respect. Jackson looked at her, his eyes filled with uncertainty. But I'm not from your world, Solara. I don't know what they expect. I don't have the skills, the knowledge, the strength that they have. What if I fail? You're not failing, she said, her voice calm and confident. This test, whatever it is, won't be about what you don't have. It will be about what you do have. Your heart, your will, your ability to overcome challenges. Those are the things that matter. Jackson felt a surge of gratitude for her words, but doubt still lingered in the back of his mind. Could he really live up to the expectations of an entire alien civilization? The next day, things took a turn. As Jackson was walking through the ship's corridor, he was suddenly stopped by a familiar figure, one of Solara's high-ranking advisors. This time, the advisor didn't speak in a polite tone. His face was stern, and there was no smile on his lips. Jackson, the advisor said, it's time. The test has been arranged. Jackson's heart sank. Test? What test? He asked, feeling his anxiety rise. You will be tested on a remote planet, the advisor explained. There are specific challenges meant to test your strength, your intelligence, and your ability to survive. It is not meant to harm you, but to assess your potential. If you succeed, you will prove your worth to my people, and you will earn our respect. Jackson swallowed hard, trying to calm his nerves. I'm not sure I'm ready for this, he admitted. The advisor's eyes softened just slightly. No one is ever truly ready. But we all face challenges in life. The way you handle them will show who you truly are. Jackson nodded, though he felt far from confident. He wasn't a soldier or a warrior or a trained leader. He was just a regular guy, someone who had never faced anything like this in his life. But he couldn't back down now. He had to try. For himself and for Solara. Later that day, Jackson was escorted to the ship's landing bay, where a small transport ship awaited him. Solara stood beside it, her gaze steady and unwavering. "I know you're scared," she said, her voice gentle. "But remember, you're not alone. I believe in you, Jackson." Her words warmed him, and for the first time in days, he felt a small spark of hope. "I'll do my best," he replied, trying to sound confident. The journey to the planet took only a few hours, but to Jackson, it felt like an eternity. As the transport ship descended through the atmosphere, the planet's surface came into view. It was a rugged, barren place, with jagged mountains and vast deserts stretching out below. There was no sign of life, no green or blue, just endless stretches of brown and gray. "This is the place," the advisor said as they landed on the rocky terrain. "Your test begins now. You will need to survive here for 3 days. There are challenges designed to test your resourcefulness, your ability to think on your feet. You will need to find food, water, and shelter. At the end of 3 days, we will return to assess your success." Jackson's heart raced. This was it, the test. He stepped out of the ship, feeling the dry, cold air of the planet hit him. The ground beneath his feet was rough, and the wind howled through the barren landscape. It was a far cry from the comfort of the spaceship he had grown accustomed to. For a moment, he stood still, taking in his surroundings. It felt like he was in the middle of nowhere. No tools, no equipment, nothing. Just him and the harsh planet. "Think, Jackson," he muttered to himself. "You've got to figure this out." He took a deep breath and began moving. The first challenge was finding water. He remembered the basics, how to look for signs of moisture in the soil, where animals might have traveled. After hours of searching, he finally found a small stream, hidden behind some rocks. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep him going. The next challenge was shelter. Jackson had no idea how he was going to build something, but he used what little he knew. He gathered rocks, sticks, and anything else he could find to create a small shelter. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to protect him from the wind. As the sun began to set on the first day, Jackson felt exhausted, but something inside him had shifted. He wasn't sure if he was ready for everything that lay ahead, but he was going to try. For Solara, for the chance to show that he could be more than just an ordinary guy. As the night fell, Jackson stared up at the stars, feeling a sense of calm settle over him. He wasn't just surviving. He was proving that he could do this, that he was worthy of the chance he had been given. And tomorrow, he would face whatever came next. The days on the alien planet were tough for Jackson, but something had shifted inside him. Every challenge he faced, every obstacle he overcame, made him feel stronger. He had begun to see his own potential, something he had never truly acknowledged before. The harsh conditions of the barren planet were no longer an enemy to him. They were a test he was determined to pass. Jackson was tired, his body aching from the long days of searching for food and shelter, but he pushed through. He wasn't just doing this for himself anymore. He was doing it for Solara, for the chance to prove that he was worthy of the life they could build together. It wasn't just about surviving. It was about showing that even a regular human like him could overcome great odds. On the third day, Jackson woke up early, the wind howling outside his makeshift shelter. The final test was approaching, and he knew it wouldn't be easy. His body felt exhausted, but his mind was clear. He had come this far, and he wasn't going to back down now. As he began to gather his things, Jackson couldn't help but think of Solara. Over the past few days, she had been on his mind constantly. Her words of encouragement, her calm presence, had kept him going. Every time he felt like giving up, he thought of her. How she believed in him when no one else did. How she was the only one who saw his worth, even when he couldn't see it himself. I have to do this, Jackson whispered to himself, his voice barely above the wind's roar. I have to show her I'm worthy. The day passed slowly, but Jackson felt a sense of purpose he hadn't felt before. It wasn't just about the survival skills or the physical strength required to pass the test. It was about showing that he could adapt, that he could think on his feet, and that he could take responsibility for his choices. As the sun began to set, signaling the end of his 3-day trial, Jackson made his way to the spot where he had first arrived. The transport ship was waiting, the advisor standing next to it, watching him closely. Jackson, the advisor said, his voice as stern as it had been the first day. Your time here is up. Let's see if you have succeeded. Jackson didn't say anything. He simply nodded, feeling a mix of relief and fear. He wasn't sure if he had passed the test, but he knew one thing for sure. He had given it everything he had. The advisor led him back to the ship, where Solara was waiting. She looked at him with wide eyes, her expression unreadable. Jackson's heart raced. Did she think he had failed? Had she been watching, waiting for him to succeed? Jackson, Solara said softly, stepping forward. I've been waiting for you. Her voice was full of warmth, but there was something else in her eyes, something Jackson hadn't expected. It wasn't just relief. It was something deeper, something that made his heart skip a beat. Did I pass? Jackson asked, his voice rough with exhaustion. Solara smiled, her eyes glowing with pride. You did more than pass, she said, her tone full of admiration. You proved yourself in ways that no one expected. You showed determination, strength, and most importantly, you showed heart. That is all I ever needed to see. Jackson felt a weight lift from his chest, and for the first time in days, he allowed himself to relax. He had done it. He had survived. And in doing so, he had proven that he was capable of more than he ever thought. The advisor stepped forward, nodding in approval. You've done well, human. There are those who were skeptical of your worth, but I can see now that they were wrong. You are worthy of Solara. You are worthy of her trust, her love. Jackson turned to Solara, his heart filled with emotion. She had never doubted him, even when he had doubted himself. She had believed in him from the very beginning, and now he had shown her that he could stand beside her as an equal. I don't know what to say, Jackson admitted, his voice thick with emotion. I never thought I could do it, but I did. For you. Solara stepped closer to him, her hand gently touching his arm. You didn't just do this for me, Jackson, she said softly. You did it for yourself. You've proven that you are capable of great things. I believe in you, just as you've believed in me. Jackson looked into her eyes, feeling a deep connection, a bond that had grown stronger over the past few weeks. He wasn't just a man who had been chosen by chance anymore. He was someone who had earned his place by her side. They had both proven their worth, Solara by trusting him, and Jackson by believing in himself. The advisor gave them a final nod before stepping away, leaving them alone together. As the last rays of the setting sun bathed the planet in a soft glow, Jackson and Solara stood together in the quiet of the moment, both of them feeling the weight of everything they had been through. I've never felt this way before, Jackson admitted, his voice quiet but filled with sincerity. I've never felt so connected to someone. Solara smiled, her eyes full of warmth and affection. Neither have I, but I think we've both been waiting for something like this, waiting for the right person, the right connection. Jackson took a deep breath, the future suddenly seeming brighter than ever before. I don't know where this journey will take us, but I know one thing. I want to face it with you, Solara. Together. Solara's smile grew wider, and she stepped closer to him, taking his hand in hers. Together, she repeated softly. We will face it together. As they stood there, hand in hand, looking out at the stars, Jackson realized that this was just the beginning. The challenges they had faced had brought them closer, but the future held even greater possibilities. Together, They were ready to face whatever came next. The days following the test felt like a dream to Jackson. Everything had changed, and yet nothing felt more real. The challenges he had faced on the alien planet now seemed like distant memories, replaced by the warmth of Solara's presence. She had always believed in him, and now, after everything he had been through, he could see that belief in a new light. Their bond had only grown stronger, and it was no longer about surviving or proving himself. It was about trust, love, and the connection they shared. Solara had stayed by his side through every trial, offering him guidance, strength, and understanding. She had shown him a world beyond his wildest imagination, and in return, Jackson had shown her that a human could be as resilient, resourceful, and determined as any of the beings she had known. Together, they had proved that love could transcend differences, even those as vast as the space between planets. Now, as they sat together on the observation deck once again, watching the stars drift past the ship's window, Jackson felt a sense of peace he had never known before. The quiet hum of the spaceship surrounded them, and the endless beauty of the cosmos stretched out before them. Everything seemed to fall into place. "I can't believe how much has changed," Jackson said, breaking the silence. His voice was soft, filled with awe as he looked out at the stars. "I never imagined this life for myself. I never imagined meeting someone like you." Solara smiled, her eyes sparkling in the soft light. "I know. I think we both had different paths before we crossed each other's. But sometimes life has a way of bringing people together when they need it the most." Jackson turned to her, feeling a rush of gratitude. "I used to think I was just an ordinary guy, nothing special. But now, I feel like I'm part of something bigger than I ever thought possible." Solara reached out and gently took his hand. "You're special, Jackson. You always were. You just needed to see it for yourself." Jackson squeezed her hand, the warmth of her touch filling him with a sense of comfort and reassurance. "I don't think I ever really understood the value of a person until now. Until I met you. I've learned so much from you, from your people, and from myself. I feel like I've grown in ways I never expected." Solara leaned in closer, her voice tender. "And you've taught me things too. I've learned that love is more than just a bond between two people. It's about sharing, supporting, and growing together. It's about accepting each other's differences and using them to create something stronger than we could."